brave and the brilliant. Today we have, of course, another brave and brilliant guest with us to tell us some awesome stories of transformation and to speak to us about how we can be creative, creating our own path and allowing people to see that and share it with us. So, Savia, hello and
Hey,
welcome.
thank you so much for having me, Ben. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Yourself?
Not too bad, actually. It's been a roller coaster of a day, but it's one of the ones you always remember.
Oh, okay. That sounds intriguing. Let's go there.
Sometimes in life, you have to make, sometimes in life, you have to be the leader to make a decision that nobody else wants to make. I had to make that decision today. So I'll leave it there
Are
to
we not
let every.
exploring what that decision was?
I can't say at the moment. I will tell you at another date, but at the
Mm.
moment, I just had to make a decision based on good and positive intuition. And because I care so much about people and how they feel, even if they feel vulnerable within their environment, I have to be the one to turn around and say, well, sometimes there's only one leader in a pack. And if you are that one leader in a pack, no matter how much it scares you, you must go forward and save everyone else. So I feel in the most positive and energetic way that I done that today.
Oh, that's awesome. That's like a really lovely way of like describing like bravery, right? Being vulnerable and like accepting it. Like no matter how vulnerable or how scared you are of this path, step down it. Like go down that path. I promise you, it's going to have some awesome effects. Um, so, I mean, well, I mean, if I don't know where it is, it's kind of hard for me to promise that. But the majority of the time, right, you being vulnerable and accepting that and being brave to like walk down that path. I mean, I see people have awesome effects like that all the time. So I suppose it would be cool to like actually get like a story behind that. So maybe today's story is one that we'll put a pin in for part two. But we,
Of course, there you go.
but but it'll be awesome to like explore like your bravery and the things that have taken you to the place that you're at now. I mean, the successes that you've created in your life and you're continuing to create and the path that you're continuing to follow, it didn't start off easy. And we were exploring this when you were younger that wasn't great. It was one that put you down all the time.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you to, you know, lead that a bit, if that's possible, to speak on the things that you spoke on before we went live.
So basically, I remember. So I grew up in West London. I'm half Indian, St. Lucian, Jamaican, and English. So I'm quite a mix myself. So I felt like I never really fitted into any particular place or culture because you have my mother's side that is Indian, and then you have my father's side, which is more Jamaican. But my mother's side lived in St. Lucia. So, anyways, it it was one of those things where I felt I never fitted in. My family didn't necessarily treat me the way all of my cousins were because I am the darkest skinned one actually. And I'm very open to awkward conversation. I easily speak about anything to do with awkward conversations. And I'm glad that's been enhanced now in the world where people have more awkward conversations. So basically what it was I am dark skinned. I my family basically said I wasn't the prettiest one and they put that in my confidence all the time. I wasn't the prettiest one. This one is prettier. This one is prettier. That one can do more. As you're growing up, that takes effect on you. It also gives you lack of self-love on yourself. So as I was growing up, I just thought I was never good enough. Anything that I went to do, I thought I was never good enough. Then I had to find something that I connected with. And I do believe my father, one day he bought me a camera and I connected with that camera so quickly. Um, it taught me to take pictures and see things in a different way. And at a young age, that's where my creativity began. Also, when it came to writing, me being a writer, growing up, then becoming a songwriter and a ghostwriter for other people, And I was able to put down my feelings, and even if nobody knew my name, there were people singing my songs out there, famous and non-famous, who I was like, whoa, they're singing my song, and it's my words and my emotions coming from somebody else.
Mm.
And to me, growing up and being able to listen to that and know that I've achieved that, I started to build self-confidence within myself. And I was like, I am capable of doing this. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. It definitely doesn't matter what your family say. You can have the best family in the world, and you can also be brought into the worst family in the world. There are some things that we are not in control of, like what family we're born into, where we come from, what we look like. We can't control these things. But the things we can control is how we feel, where we want to go in life, how we want to get there. Everything is a chance. Everybody needs a chance to get there, to get to where they want to get to. Um, and I just believed in, I am most probably one of the most optimistic people that anyone can meet, because it doesn't matter how bad my day is going. I always say to myself, you can flip it. And I think that is so important in anything in life. And basically, that's what I've done with my life. From coming from not necessarily a good place in my life where people were saying, you're not pretty, you're ugly, or whatever it might be, to saying you can achieve anything you want and going to get that. And you can do it. But it takes a lot of self love for yourself and not listening to what people say and how they say it to you. And that's just thoroughly what I believe.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, would you be able to speak on that a bit more, actually, of the fact of it was your family that would call you ugly?
My family were all lighter than me. They were all mixed, so half white, half black. I was half black, half Indian, and it was um I think it was my brother who started it mainly, when he would turn around and say, um, "Oh, you're black, you're ugly," you know. And I don't know whether he meant it, but as a kid, when somebody says that to you, you automatically feel, well, maybe there is something wrong with me, you know? And then I looked around in my family and everyone was the same on my mother's side. Whereas on my father's side, everyone was black. It wasn't a problem. There was no issue. There was no issue. We were all cool about it. But on my mother's side, it was a little bit different. But my grandmother was the best in the world. I think she's one of the most, she's the biggest influence in my life. And she told me, don't worry about him. People, and I'll stick with this. She says, anytime a person says something to you that is negative, they are only talking about how they feel about themselves.
Mm.
So so do not worry about what another person says. And then as I got older, it was true, because somebody else said to me, and this was actually my accountant said this to me. A person who is positive and wants good for you will always talk positive to you and push you so you can be your best self. A person who talks negative to you is a person that is not happy with themselves. And that resonated with me because it's so true. And every time I speak to someone or see someone, I always see them and look at the way they talk to me, feel the way they talk to me, understand the reason why they are talking to me in that way. And I always say to everyone, I quote that I always say is, how you treat me is a reflection of yourself. How I treat you is a reflection of myself. And that says so much.
Yeah,
And
this
I'm
is something really, really important, actually. And I think it's so, like, we can talk about it uh, so much, and it's just so hard for people to grasp sometimes. And and it's essentially, realistically, it is the service that I'm providing at the moment, a brave business experience where there is no of this mirroring, this mirroring that happens all the time just by recognizing it, where someone else's pain becomes your pain. They are like,
yeah,
I don't think you should do that crazy idea. I don't think you should go and put yourself out there and be vulnerable to sing, to like be a songwriter, to produce anything. I don't think you should put yourself in that vulnerable position, because I could never do that. Like, I would never ever do that. And I'm thinking about how scary it would be, or like how long that process is going to be before I feel the success of it. And people are all the time, like closest friends, right? Like really close friends of people will do that. And it's not because they want you to like to get down to a worse level. It's because they just don't have a way of, like, this is just how conversations go. It's kind of hard to describe, but this is how conversations go. Someone says something and it scares you, so you reflect the fear that you have as if they're saying for you to do it.
Yeah.
Now, a very, very recent example of this actually came from two people that I know very well. And one person, one of the two people was diagnosed with an illness that meant that they couldn't eat in the ways that they have been before. They have to have now new dietary requirements. But the person who was close to them was the one that was breaking down, crying, so affected by it. And the other person wasn't. The other person was like, this is okay. This is fine. I understand. This is my dietary requirements now, and this is how I'm going to live. But it became like they were putting this fear on them of like, I could never live to that level of like scrutiny for myself. And I suppose that's a hard example for me to go too much into actually, but it's really crazy. So people were saying these things to you to put you down because they didn't want to essentially be seen in the ways that like vulnerable like that. Is that what you think?
Remember what you say is a mirror image of yourself. And I always ask people, like even when one of the questions that I have on my podcast, I turn around and I say to people, when you look in your reflection, who do you see and what does your reflection say back to you? And how do you emotionally connect with that emotion of what your reflection is saying back to you? Which is a very difficult question because sometimes people don't want to listen or see themselves in that way. Everyone always wants to say, yeah, I'm fine, I'm okay. It's okay not to be okay sometimes, you know? And it's amazing because even through myself being through this journey of being my better self, being hypnotized, like I said to you before we started recording, 4 times, that transition alone of being hypnotized and having that experience has been absolutely immense. I can speak all day about hypnotherapy and how good it is for you as an individual and what it can do to you and how it can change and how you can see your future and how you can evolve and how you can cleanse yourself. But I think also one of the biggest things that I've ever done in my life is seek my own spirituality and learning that how my energy reflects on other people and how their energy reflects on myself.
Yeah, I mean, this is just so beautiful, right? I mean, hypnotherapy, I've explored a long time ago, like a little bit of it, but I wouldn't really be able to say that I could tell you too much about it. So that's also like that has also effects, and I know it does. Like really just being clear in your mind and just being like in the present moment rather than, oh, I couldn't do this before, and like, oh, this is how I act every day. No, like change it, you know, like just do something different now. It's cool. So the point that I wanted to take with that, I can't remember. That's annoying. I can't remember. Would you like to tell us about your hypnotherapy, your what happens to you in hypnotherapy?
Yeah, so I recently done a video and I sent it to my hypnotherapist about the whole experience. I spoke for about 10 minutes just saying how I felt and what it done to me. So I had 4 sessions. Each session lasts about an hour and a half, depending on the type of session it is. The first session and the last session, I would definitely say, is the deepest. Whereas the first session, he took me to a place. So he made me relax. I was quite reluctant at first and I was hesitating. Anytime you're doing something for the first time, you're going to feel quite reluctant to want to do it or go under. So he was trying to make me relax and and I was trying, nope, I'm not relaxing. Nope, I'm not doing it. And I can see him laughing because we did it over the camera. And
Okay.
we were laughing for quite a while. Anyway, eventually I got down, I relaxed a bit, and then I could feel myself being really relaxed and going to sleep, like literally out. It feels like you're, in my experience, it feels like you're paralyzed. So your body is paralyzed, but yet your subconscious and your conscious, you can feel everything around you. You can hear everything, you can feel everything. It's amazing, but your body is still. You can't do anything. So he took me on a journey where he told me a story of things to do within that journey. One of the things he told me to do was to go in several different rooms, and in each different room, he made me do something different. In one particular room, he made me look at all the people who have done something to me in my life. And I never realized as a human being how powerful our brain is and how powerful our memory is to remember every single person, even a stranger in the street that was in that room. And it was amazing. I was like, "Whoa, who are you? Who are you?" kind of thing, and I I was like, "What you doing here?" kind of thing, but he would just say how you feel to them, and then when you finish saying how you feel to each person, they would disappear, and that's exactly what happened. They
Mm,
disappeared. And then what he would do is he would tell me to armor up myself. So we went into a room and it had everything. It had grenades. It was so funny. It had grenades. It had guns. But it wasn't any type of violence. Basically, what he was trying to do, he was trying to give me a thicker skin in order to say to myself, this armor that I'm telling you to pick up on all these weapons and bulletproof vests that I'm telling you to put on is my way of telling you how to deal with people when they say something to you that you don't like because you are a sensitive person. So after I took everything I could and put it on, I could feel that every layer I put on was a layer of thick skin that if anybody was now to turn around and say anything to me, I'd be ready to say, you know what, throw it over my head and carry on walking.
mm,
He also gave me a chance to see my future self, which I would tell people to do. And regardless if you see your future self, guys, it doesn't matter. Keep working towards it because things can also change for the better and you can enhance that. And that was just number one, you know. Number 2 was more of a journey of family and understanding the reason why my family were the way they were to me. Number 3 was more about, me also playing the piano. I didn't play the piano for quite a long time, and I stopped anything to do with music because I had so many distractions going on, and I was trying to help everybody else, but I forgot about myself, and I'm sure a lot of people do this, where they're so concerned about everybody else in the world that they forget about their self-love and who they are as an individual. And that happens nearly every day. I see it all the time. And I loved playing a piano, like I said, and I loved writing, and I just stopped. And one of the things that I spoke to him before we went in the session, he said, you need to have a vision of what you want to get from this session. And that was basically my vision. My vision was for me to be able to play my keyboard again, for me to play as passionately and love what I'm doing again. And it took me a while because I still, when I came out of that one, the third one, it took me a while. It took me a couple of weeks to want to go on it again because I still had that fear of if I put my hands on the keyboard, am I going to play it the same way I did before? And when I did, oh my gosh, it felt like I just played it yesterday. And so for me, that was epic. My last one is we went into one of my past lives. I wanted to know what I was in my past life, and I found out that my mother was my brother, which was really weird. And there were so many other things that we went on, but I would say to everyone, hypnotherapy is a thing that I think everyone should experience at least once in their life. Because if you're spiritual or in any kind of way, or you just believe in things that maybe other people don't believe in, keep going with what you believe in. Because there is someone out there that will believe in what you will believe in, or is interested in what you believe in and how you think and how you feel the world should be. And that's what sparks conversation and knowledge. And wisdom is power, you know? So to me, it was totally epic.
mm. I suppose that's like finding your own wisdom, right? Like
Mhm.
diving in deeper into what you actually believe rather than all this stuff around you that's telling you what to believe. Like that moment of, okay, let me pause, let me get in touch with my emotions, because that's kind of what it seems like you were doing by visiting all of those rooms. I mean, that's the thing
Yeah.
that I would most connect to is, you know, when something bad happens, when someone calls you ugly on LinkedIn or wherever they want to call you ugly, wherever, Instagram, whatever it is, you can sit with that for a moment. You don't need to rush into the next thing, and you don't need to try and distract yourself from it. Actually, it's kind of good to go closer to it and just sit with it and be like, okay, sit with it until it kind of disappears. You know, you don't need to have all of these external influences all the time. And to sit with what you're actually feeling and then to carry on, that's pretty powerful. And I
Yeah.
think, I mean, that's like slightly a side note, but it's like going in deep as to how you could even have hypnotherapy working on yourself, because the coaching that I provide is kind of, you know, it falls under those same like radars, I suppose. One thing that I had to work with, I worked with two people on today actually, is stepping into that emotion, like actually just recognizing that you're feeling something now and not moving
Yeah.
on to the next thing because it's like that guy said something, you know. A lot of the time people say stuff to you, you know, you can feel it. You don't need to be scared of feeling it. And there's going to be some clarity that comes with that, instead of moving on to the next thing, clouding yourself with all these other people's ideas. And there's this wisdom. So in this space, you gained a reconnection to something that you're deeply passionate about, which is playing the piano, playing the
Okay.
keyboards, a different area of music that that you hadn't explored for ages.
Mm, most definitely. I think everything happens for a reason in life. From me getting bullied to when I was younger, my family treating me the way they did. Everything happens for a reason. And you learn and you teach yourself to always strive to do better for yourself. You can go in so many ways in life. You can turn around and say, well, I'm going to go in a bad way, the bad route. And I always say to people, going down the bad route is easier than going down the good route, because it really is. Because
But yeah, let's take the effective path, not the easy one. That's what I say.
yeah,
Like the stop taking the route of um, least resistance all the time. You know, the one that's like the bad path, the self-sabotaging path. Why? Why do you want to do
well, the bad
that?
part, the bad part is easier because it's fun, it's entertaining, but it only lasts a short time. Whereas when you're grafting to do something like you're doing, for instance, Ben, you want to enhance people's lives. You want to make people become their best selves. You want to help people out of dark places to see the light. You want to you say to people, you know what, there is light at the end of the tunnel, which there is, but it's getting there. This is the part that people find exhausting or hard, is getting to see that light at the end of the tunnel and reaching there. And people like yourself help people to get there. And there's not a lot of people out there that are like that, because people are so consumed with greed, or they everything is me, myself, and I, that they don't want to help anyone. They want to get there first. And one of my friends said something to me, and I sat and I thought about it for a little while. My friend said, people want you to do good, but not better than them. And then I was like, because I was so naive at the time, and I thought everyone always wanted you to do good. Yeah. Um it was mad, because I was saying to myself, well, everyone should do good. He's like, no, no, man, Savia. It's a thing where some people want you to do good, but then they don't want you to do better than them, because then they'll see it as, well, they're better than me, and they're challenged by that. So it doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't bother me at all. I always say to someone, if you're going to go and do it because you love it. Go and do it because you know it's going to change your life. Go and do it because you know somebody else will look up to you as inspiration or for inspiration. So that's kind of how I see life now.
Yeah, we don't need to knock people down to grow.
Exactly.
And that's one thing that I've actually, it's a bit of a side note again, but I've noticed that I'm actually working a lot more with people that are way more successful than me. I mean, of course they would be more successful than me because I've been doing this for like 9 months, and I'm working with people that have like years into their career, right? But it's like, why would I not want to help these people become even better? And like that's part of the process, is like aiming up, you know, like just because someone's bigger and better than you doesn't mean that you can't like reach up to them for some help, or reach up to them to try and like to help them in some way. Like you can help people that are above you because they don't know everything. Like I learn so much stuff
Exactly.
from my sister all the time. Like she's a savage in some ways that I'm not. Like I
Wow.
I um I started taking some cold showers, right? Because this was a way to just invigorate my body. It's a way to go through discomfort, and you know you need these shocks of discomfort in your life to grow. And there's a whole process to it, the Wim Hof method. So anyway, I'm talking to my sister about this, um, saying like, "Oh, I've started doing this thing. Have you ever considered it?" Blah blah blah. And she's like, "Yeah, I've been doing that for ages," and she didn't realize why she was doing it. She was doing it for her hair and for her skin. I mean, she realized it was different to my realization, and I was just like, "Oh, so how long do you do it for?" Because I do it for like 20 seconds. She's like, "Oh, I don't know, 3 minutes, 5 minutes." I'm like, "Man, you're a savage. I need to learn from you." And and like the point that I'm trying to make is like you can help anyone. Like they don't need to be below you, and you don't need to bring people down to your level to rise up. You can like go and reach up to big places all the time. I really
I
believe
see everyone I see everyone on the same level. It doesn't matter to me. The only thing that changes is the people you know and the size of your bank account. And that doesn't matter because when
that.
you die, you don't take none of it with you. That's how I see it.
It's just numbers
The
and labels.
That's it. That's all it is. It's just titles, and it's sad, and I get disappointed when people seem to put these things on a pedestal and think because they have a title and they have more money that means they're better than you. That's not at all. You can learn something from a 5-year-old. You can learn something from a 95-year-old. It doesn't matter. You know, that's kind of how I see it.
I think this is like extremely important for anyone that wants to start like progressing themselves, is to understand that they can learn from everyone, like, and that they
Yeah,
can because once you realize that you can learn from everyone, you can also teach everyone, and like you can
yeah,
provide help to everyone. And that's, I think I'm starting to realize that this is like the most important thing. Like if you're working in a business or in your life just generally, the aim is to help people. So don't be afraid to help people that are like higher level than you, and don't be afraid to help people that are like lesser than you in the same breath.
Mm. No, I definitely think so, and I think I've learned that. And as I've grown as an interviewer to interview people, I like asking difficult questions. Difficult questions resonate. Difficult answers that people are unaware or unable to answer sometimes because they've never been asked it before.
Mhm.
And that comes down to you being brave and brilliant in the aspects of your profession. And this is why I say everybody's profession is brilliant and it is brave because you've decided to go into that profession. You've decided to become a professional within that profession. And you've decided to become an inspiration to somebody else who wants to go into that profession. All it takes is somebody to ask you the right questions to help educate them on how they can do that. And then that enhances them. And in a nutshell, that is brilliant.
Mhm. I think yeah, these acts of bravery, you know that they're like a good act because of the brilliant outcomes, and that's kind of where I got the title from. So actually, yeah, let's just go back to the photography, like when you were saying
Ah,
before, because we went on a detour, but it was an important one, like loads of nuggets there for people to dive into. But you just picked up a camera one day, really, and just started like running with that process
so
from nowhere, really.
I must have been about 6 or 7 years old. I think my dad was just giving me a camera to just keep me out of trouble at the time and to entertain me. I went round and I just started taking pictures of everything, family, places, car tires. I remember it didn't matter what it is. My dad's old mini car that he had, and in the front it had a hole in it. So I took a picture of if you lift up the mat, there was a big hole in his car, and I took a picture of that. And then I realized how powerful pictures are in color and in black and white. I find that I understand why so many photographers out there do black and white photos because they tell such an important story. Color is beautiful too. You know, I know painters, I know loads of photographers also. Anybody who has that craft within art, I understand the passion and the reason why they do it. Taking pictures of people, especially when you're taking a portrait, each portrait that you take of a person says a million words about the person, their emotions, how they feel, how you take the picture, the lighting, you know, the composition. And these are all technical terms within photography. But if you are a person who wants to learn photography, 80% of photography is light. Once you understand what light is and what it does, you will be an exceptional photographer if you put your mind to it and graph like no one else. Finding work for photography can be hard, but there are so many avenues out there. You have the internet, you can have an exhibition online if you want to do that. There are so many ways that you can become a photographer and show people how you view the world through a lens, you know? And I would say if you're just starting out in photography, you don't have to have the most expensive camera. The camera that my dad got me was £5. I was 7 years old. It didn't even have a viewfinder. It didn't even have a viewfinder. You would have to lift up the camera viewfinder and it will have these two holes. One would be a small one would be a big one. And I remember I used it so much, the camera blew up on me, you know, and back then it was film. So I had 36 exposures. There was no such thing for me as composition and f-stops and shutter speed. There was none of that. For me, it was just shoot, take the picture. But now you have Photoshop, you have Lightrooms, you have so many, you have InDesign, you have all these things now that you can manipulate a picture to tell a completely different story than what you actually took, actually how you took the picture. And photography is definitely a way I feel is one of the best things that have ever happened to me in my life, as well as songwriting, but and writing books. But it's one of the best thing that has ever happened to me in my life. And I'm glad that I'm able to share that with people and also tell a story with the permission of doing a job that I love and I get paid for to say to people, look how you can look through a camera because everyone says, make me look good. No, I'll make you look natural. I'm not one of those photographers that will be like, yeah, I'm going to airbrush you from head to toe. I think the beauty, and this is why I say everything that happened to me when I was younger has come to this point. Because when a person hasn't got self confidence about themselves while I'm taking a picture of them, I understand. I really do understand. So when I take a picture of them and I say, okay, this is how you look, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I could look like that. And I said, exactly. And that's without me editing you.
Mm. Yeah, in
Mhm.
that way, you'd be doing them a disservice to edit
Exactly.
their photos, right? Because that's a culture that we live in, unfortunately, of
Mhm.
filtered, let me make sure I'm perfect before I go out and present myself. Where it's like you have a lot of great qualities that you're probably like, it's just like you're looking at the other person all the time.
Mm.
Like
Yeah, definitely.
who's better than you all the time? Yeah, it's quite sad.
It's, it's definitely something that, but again, it's you being positive within what you want to do and always taking it that step further. It's like you were saying to me before, it's like stepping into your fears.
Mm.
Okay. Anytime you are scared of something, anybody, I'll say this to anybody, step into it, go further into it, dive into it. I don't care, smash it, kick it down. I don't care what you want to do. Yeah. But go into it because at the end of the day, if you don't conquer your fears, somebody else will conquer their fears and pass you. And then you will say to yourself, but I could have done that, but you were too scared to. So that's why I say to anybody, if you are in a position in your I know sometimes things are easy to say, but hard to do. But if there's ever a time in your life where you feel scared and sometimes when you are scared, it's maybe the spiritual world's way of saying, I want to take you to the next chapter in your life, but I have to make sure you're ready to go through with it. So it might be scary, but just do it.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, there's like a reality that we live in, and the fear is that boundary, right?
Yeah.
And then when we go through that fear, like you say, it's like the universe speaking to us. It's like the universe expanding because we are able to conquer more of it. It's really that simple. You know, the Truman Show. Have you seen it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where it is the fact of, okay, I'm living in this one world, and everyone is putting those like they're mirroring how they want to see me all the time, as we spoke about before, where everyone's like confiding you to this reality, this one way that you should act. And for you to step outside of that's scary, right? Because it's safe. Even if everyone's calling you ugly and everyone's putting you down all the time, it's safe. You still eat, you still have shelter, like your needs are met. But you don't know what's on the other side. If you stop rejecting the fact that you're ugly or accepting it in different ways, you don't know what's on the other side. So that's scary. That's fear. That's where fear happens, like in the unpredictable moments. But you know deep down, like on the other side, there's going to be something so cool, like some things that you've never ever experienced before, and it's going to be fascinating. It's going to be unpredictable in all the best ways, and you'll get through it. You know, I mean, fears, like, we have too much fear these days, you know, or like not too much fear. We just act upon the fear too much because realistically, we're not going to die by taking more photos or by saying that we're a photographer and asking someone if they want to get involved in the photo shoot, or if we expose ourselves vulnerably in a song. You know, we're not going to die. It's like,
No, you definitely.
you're not going to die, I can
It's,
promise you.
I think it's just people's perception of themselves. And like I say, to, excuse me, to be brave in what you want to do is a really good thing. Sorry, guys, I'm choking. Ooh, I'm back.
Yeah, I think, you know, going with the bravery is we just transcend ourselves. We just become more of who we want to be. It's like we just become more unique, right? Because if we go towards the things that don't make us within this reality and don't make us just like everyone else, we have to be brave. We have to be brave to step out of the crowd. And by stepping out of the crowd, we become more unique and we fill our lives with more of the stuff that we love. I mean, you experienced that again recently by connecting to the things that you care about, being scared to even type. I don't know if you type on a keyboard, but we'll run with it. Yeah,
Sometimes.
you were scared to hit the notes again. And then you did, right? And what's happened since then?
Oh, I think I've written about 100 songs, possibly.
Wow, that's crazy.
But it's a nice feeling to be able to do that. And when you're doing it for other people as well, and then you hear them sing and you train them. I've got real bad cough. Sorry, guys. When you train people to do something they love, you automatically feel and see how they feel about doing what they love. And some of these things that you can't express in words, you have to see it. The more you see it, the more you feel it. The more you feel it, the more you want to do it.
Mm.
So definitely, yeah.
Yeah, it's that thing, right? Once you feel it and you get a taste for it, once you step outside of that bravery, it's like you won't want to go back to the normal life. It's going to be like a really weird decision to do that. So,
I
you
think.
know, sorry, carry on. I was probably going to go into a weird tangent that wouldn't make
Oh,
sense.
go on. No, I love it. Go on
No,
tangents.
please, no, please, carry on.
I'm so used to like I say, I'm so used to people asking people questions that And I love people who have sense of humor, especially when I'm interviewing them. It shows so much on it in our interview. So for me, it's about people just being their authentic self in life. And if you have a gift and you're able to help somebody else enhance their gift, just do it. Just do it. No matter what comes in your life, just do it. We go through so much obstacles every day in our lives, and the best thing that you can do as a person is just to live life. You have one life and you live it to the best of your ability that you can. We all haven't been given a great life, but even if you haven't been given a great life, there are elements in it that you can take from it that are great. But you have to find them. I can't find them for you. You have to find them.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can expose them. We can expose them by doing more things, by taking photos. Like, you became a really good photographer by just doing it, you know?
I think a lot of it was there's a little bit of luck in there as well, I think.
I can see where you would go with that, right? But luck becomes redundant if you do not do things, like taking loads and loads of photos. One of them will be good. One of them will put you out there. Sending like loads of messages to people to have them involved in your work, or you're going to get lucky because you're increasing the odds. It's like
No, that's true.
I find this is so obvious. This is like a great way to start, is like, do what you're doing, but maybe you could do more of it, like expose it, get it bigger. I think I saw this somewhere before, of the best photographers, and I think it was photographers, were no, it's not something that I know well enough, but it's not the people that take one photo and like try and spend ages making it perfect. It's people that do 100 photos. One of them is more likely to be great, right?
I think that people do that when they are beginners. They will just go brrr with their camera. Take into consideration your camera only takes about 200,000 photos before it might die.
Mm.
Um, I had to teach myself that. I had to teach myself that. When I first started, I would do that thing, Ben, where I would go brrr with the camera and say to myself, one of them's gonna come out good. Then I stopped doing that. Then I learned what lenses were. Then I learned what lenses were and how expensive they were. And then what I would do is I would go out with my camera with one lens, one prime lens. And the reason why I say prime lens is because prime lenses let more light into your camera. So no matter where you are, the light will be really, really good in maybe possibly a dark situation. And also learning about my settings. It helped me learn about my settings. And it also taught me to go towards my subject and come away from my subject rather than having a zoom lens like a 70 to
Mm.
200, where I can stand where I am and zoom in and out on you and not have to move. I think it's so important to learn your craft, especially within photography, where you have to move forward and move backwards within your subject. You have to learn what lenses are good in daylight, what lenses are not good in daylight. You have to learn, how to deal with your clients and the subjects that you're trying to take a picture of. Again, you have to learn about light. You have to learn about f-stops and so on and so forth. So these are the things that are really good when you're learning your craft, like being a writer, you learning how to write. I was also dyslexic. So for me, writing was impossible. Spelling was impossible. But because I had that determination to want to do it, I made myself do it. And that's how I grafted to write books, or that's how I grafted to write songs, or that's how I learned how to do things. You have to grow. You have to be There are people who are born with natural talents, right? And they can go out and just be epic at what they do. And then there are people who are good, but not that good. But then they will work harder. They will graft harder. They will do more work than the person who only spends maybe 2 hours a day working. The other person, like myself, will spend 10 hours working because they know they want to perfect their art and their craft. But also for me, it's again the determination and your attitude towards it says so. Your attitude plays a big part in any field. The way you talk to people, the way you act towards people, what you do within your craft, again, all these things play such a big part. And that's why One of the things I always say to people is, don't worry about if you don't get something. There's somebody out there that will give you a chance, but always recognize what you do right and what you do wrong. There is nothing wrong with that. That's how you learn and grow as a person. Mm.
Yeah. No, I think that's, yeah, it's powerful. You need to, I do like 3 in 1. Like if I do something, try and do right 3 things that went well and one thing that went like that I can improve. I always think that's a good way of upgrading. But I do
Yeah.
think you need to, it's all about the experience. Like maybe I said it in the wrong way of going round and going with the camera, right? But there is a level of like maybe, you know, to actually like immerse yourself in what's good. Like don't be scared to fail, don't be scared to take rubbish photos of tires. Actually just take photos of a lot of stuff, you know. I'm not saying that the photos were rubbish, by the way, because I
They
haven't
weren't they
seen
weren't great. They weren't great, man. As a 7-year-old, they weren't great. I think as I got older, maybe about 9 or 10 or whatever it might be, I started to understand what a camera does. And because I wasn't taking it seriously until I got older, and my friends, and this is another thing, the people that you have in your life play such an important part in your life as well, because they can either give you good advice or really bad advice, and you have to be able to filter that out. You have to be able to filter the good friends and the bad friends. So that in a nutshell done a lot for me when it came to creativity in any way or any field, and my attitude towards being humble, being kind, respecting people, understanding why people are the way they are. It definitely helps.
Yeah, I think that's like a big theme of today's conversation of like sort of realizing your environment a
Yeah.
lot. I suppose that's what you do as a photographer, right? I mean, that is really what you do.
Yeah.
But you would see that a lot more. And I think a really important thing that I don't want people to like skip past is when we were speaking earlier about people portraying an image onto you a lot of the time. And once you sort of see that, like see people how they're restricting you, even if they're trying to be loving in doing it, and the people around you that are like preventing you from doing the stuff you want to do, you need to address that. And even if like addressing it publicly is probably good, speaking to them, but just addressing it with yourself is like, just because they don't believe in me doesn't mean I can't do it. And just because I don't have the talents, like what we spoke about just a minute ago, of people being talented, that doesn't mean that I can't surpass these people. I think, talents can sometimes be a place where it like stumps progress, because everything's so easy for the first like couple of months, maybe a couple of years, and then you don't put in the hard and brave work and you're not continually growing. So I think these are really key chunks of knowledge that you've been able to provide with us today. I think I want to leave it there because I want those things to kind of linger with people, for them to know that they don't need to like continually be influenced by their environment. They can use it as you would like an amazing photographer, right?
Um, well, I'm more of a humble one. I never rate myself because I always feel that I could do better or learn more or be better and understand my craft a bit more. I'm kind of one of those people that after I take one picture and it's done, it's on to the next one. And it's just one of those things that I've always been very humble when somebody says my work is good, or they really like a piece of my work, or they have it on their wall somewhere in their house, or it's always been really, really, really nice. Or when, like I say, when somebody sings one of my songs, it's a nice feeling. It's a really, really nice feeling. And that's why I always say to someone, never let somebody stop you from going for your dream. Yeah.
Even if that person's yourself.
Well, we are our best friends and we are our worst enemies at the best of times.
Mm. Yeah, let's tap into the best friends one.
I'm always there. So it's okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and I'm sure everyone's very happy with the nuggets of knowledge that you've provided us. So thank you so much.
No, thank you so much for having me. Sorry, guys, for choking. I don't know what happened.
It's all
I
right.
don't know what happened. But yeah, thank you so much, guys.
That's